Nice.
Time to eat a food.
What's on the menu?
It's JW and Bionic Blaze.
Yeah!
Who said it? A hungry man is a hungry man, and I don't want to be hungry man.
Angry man is a violent man, and I don't want to be violent man.
A violent man is a dangerous man, and I don't want to be dangerous man.
A dangerous man is a dangerous man, cause a dangerous man go and kill a man to just eat a food.
Everybody eat a food.
Move so low, eat a food.
Hold your waist and just eat a food.
Move forward.
Hi folks, good evening. How are y'all doing? Thank you so much for joining me. This is easily one of the simplest lives I've had to put together, but at the same time, in trying to figure out what images to use, what to pull, to make sure I covered all of the things that I wanted to cover, I still had to put a lot of thought into it. So hopefully I've done a good job. So Alana, good evening. Fabian, good evening. Wendy, Sule, Laurent, Trisha, Carol, who else? Hazel, Janisha, Michelle, Paul. Michelle, I'm so glad you're here because I'd hail you out on the live at some point in time. I mean, I'm hailing you out now, but I will hail you out a little bit later on. Dion Wellington. Hi folks, good evening and thank you so much for joining me. Hi Barbara, nice to see you. Thanks for the kush mash earlier today. Hi Debbie, Carla, Bernadette, Monifi. So good evening to my New Source family. Right, now me expecting this live to have no big set of numbers, right? And that's because different lives does have different kind of audiences. When is plenty backs and thing, I know plenty people going and show up, people who interested in hearing the details, and also people who want to troll the feed and thing. Hi Eldon from Tampa, nice to see you. Hi Ian Lee, hi Sharon Griff, hi Diane Muhammad, Daniel Frederick, Shamona. Good. So as a child, I grew up in central Trinidad. I mean, I think I say this to people fairly often. Hi Andel, hi Dominic, hi Candice. And where I grew up in central Trinidad was mostly agricultural land. And of course it was agricultural land that eventually Tongue and Country gave permission to people to build homes on, right? So my mom had bought land and it was towards the end of the development. And so next to her was like a half lot of sloping land. Or actually, maybe if the land was entirely flat, it would have been a whole lot for another house again. But it was sloping and it sloped down into a ravine, lagoon, swamp, right? Because it had oil birds and thing around and whatever. And caiman, because we were accustomed to during the rainy season, caiman walking, coming up out of it. Hi Max from Grenada and well Canada via Grenada, nice to see you. Hi Colleen Bisnat, hi Merle, hi Daryl. No, you're not late Daryl, you reach in time, you're just in time. Hi Raquel. Good. So as a child growing up, I had a lot of responsibilities where that piece of land, that sloping piece of land was concerned, because my mother had an entire kitchen garden. And when I tell you an entire kitchen garden, I think the only thing we got from the grocery was oil, sugar, and tinned foods, right? So like sardines, corned beef, and of course if you're buying chicken and that kind of thing, and peanut butter, because my brother is vegetarian, so he used to eat a lot of peanut butter. But everything else was growing there. So I was accustomed to getting up on mornings to get ready for school, and you go out and you take a fresh lettuce, fresh cucumbers, fresh tomatoes, to be able to make sandwiches for lunch for school and for breakfast. And then on evenings when I got home, I would have to actually go and pick up manure because, like I said, agricultural area, plenty other people had cows and cows were tied on hillsides grazing and stuff. So we used to go and pick up manure in crocus bags and bring back to put around the plants. Then I was responsible for wetting plants and for weeding plants. Hi, George Anderson. George Anderson is only this week I find out exactly who George Anderson is. So it's nice to know who you are, because whole time I looking at this name and looking at this person sending me messages, and I'm wondering, who is this man? I don't know this man, but now I know that I know who this man is. So nice to meet your virtual personality, George Anderson. So as a child, I was accustomed to gardening. But the gardening that I was doing as a child was very work intensive. You reach home from school and you have 2-3 hours of intense chores in the garden. Some of it wetting plants, some of it harvesting, some of it weeding, molding, that kind of thing. So I had an appreciation for being able to eat fresh, being able to take things from a garden straight into your kitchen and prepare to eat. I accustomed to that. The only kind of farming I did not do, or gardening I didn't do as a child, was livestock. We had chickens. I was accustomed to killing, plucking, and gutting chicken from very young. Actually, catching, killing, plucking, gutting, seasoning, cutting up chicken from very young. So I was accustomed to that. Not so much goats and cows. I had cousins who had goats and stuff, but I never had to deal up with that. So I was just accustomed to drinking fresh goat milk, but not necessarily looking after the goats. In any case, all of this to say, gardening, agriculture, and eating in a particular way has always ever been part of my lifestyle, right? So you get big, you leave your parents' house, you move out on your own, you're making your own money, and you're doing things in a particular way. Then when I hit like my 30s, I started thinking I wanted to do life a little bit differently. So of course, I started to eat differently, started back going to the market on a regular, started cooking regularly. So yes, pardon, I would still go out and eat food, but I spent more time cooking for myself after a while. I see Rosalind can't say that was her days as well. And around the start of the pandemic, so this didn't happen because of the pandemic. I'd already started thinking to myself that I wanted to be able to grow food. But of course, I am living in a space that is mostly concrete. And at that point in time, I hadn't yet started thinking about buying land or getting land. Then the pandemic happened. There were all of the constraints and restraints. There was also all of the how do you get to the grocery, having to line up to get into the groceries. By the time 2020 had come around, I had also started eating the majority of my food from a market. So I would be going to the grocery only for basic processed items. So rice, flour, sometimes milk, and then after that I eventually started buying milk, goat milk from a lady in the market. So I was doing more of my shopping in the market, and you all know I have spent a lot of time here bigging up NAMDEFCO and telling you all you need to use NAMDEFCO as much as possible because you're getting fresh produce, and you're getting fresh produce at a very, very reasonable price. So my food budget went down significantly the minute I decided to start to eat fresh from markets. And because my food bill went down, I was spending way less money on processed foods and buying fresh food and preparing fresh food. I said, you know what, this is good. Let me start my own thing. So to start my own thing, at first I was thinking I would have to do everything in little pots around my yard. So I was looking into container gardening around my yard. I started looking into container gardening around my yard. And maybe I should show you all what my yard looked like, right? Oh, big up tech guy and he poster. His posters are getting better and better. I'm not gonna lie, big up tech guy and his posters. I look forward to what he is going to send to me as his decision, his creative decision, because he has now become the creative director, the mind behind the imaging of News Source, right? So big up to tech guy and he images on them. That when I saw that food apocalypse picture, I just died. Right, so let me show you what my yard looked like before. Now I have cropped the image, obviously, because I had to be careful. I have all kind of crazy people out here. And every so often, people just get vexed with me because I come and talk the things and I trying as much as possible to keep myself safe. So this is what my yard looked like, right? So plenty plants in pots, and a lot of it was herbs and stuff that I would be using. Fever grass. I drink fever grass tea all the time, and I use fever grass in my cooking all the time. Lots of mint and chive and all kind of little thing, bay leaf and all kind of thing in pots and stuff. Right. So that was my yard then. Now, as a woman, have friends, plenty friends, all kind of friends. And in chatting with some of my friends, now it is not that I didn't know about aquaponics before. I knew the word aquaponics. I knew the term aquaculture. I knew hydroponics. So I knew, I was aware. But I hadn't stopped and thought to myself that my yard, the space in my yard, would be able to provide me with enough food. So I have a friend who has a home system and also had a commercial system. So I asked a couple of questions. Can I see? Debbie is asking, Ollie, check out Debbie's question. Yes, Debbie, you can put fever grass in food. Fever grass is what is known in other cultures as lemongrass. So when you want to start a pot, you can take the fever grass and cut it up, especially closer to the roots. You cut that bit up and you add it to the oil to infuse the oil. So if you're doing like Thai dishes and you're doing Chinese dishes and any kind of stir fry and thing that you want to do and you want to infuse it and make it taste nice, there you go. You just add some fever grass to the pot and it flavors it up nicely. I use spices in my pot and all the time. So things like star anise, cardamom, cinnamon, like the whole cinnamon stick. I throw that into the pot to infuse the oil all the time because those things are really good for your digestive system. And as you all can see, Isaac, you like to eat. So I like to make sure that my digestive system working fine. Good. So I knew about aquaponics. And I knew about aquaponics because I have friends who did whole degrees and whole masters in agriculture at the UWI where I work. So there's a whole faculty of food and agriculture and they have displays. And so it's not that I didn't know. I just didn't think, it didn't occur to me at the point in time that I had the opportunity, the option, the wherewithal, the resources to start to grow my own food. Yes, Sule, I am so glad that you are paying attention to the fact that I have on my farmer brand. Right. I almost put on a hat too, but then I was like, nah. Right. So, I talked to a friend, and the friend explained things to me. And so now I am going to take you all through my experience. I'm not passing myself off as an expert. I am not an expert. I am a beginner, but I am happy to answer any questions you have that I have the potential and the capability to answer. So any questions you have, ask the questions. I'm keeping an eye on the comment thread today. I don't always keep an eye on the comment thread, but I'm keeping an eye on the comment thread today, and we are going to talk about how I did things. So we're going through this, and I don't just want to tell you what I did. I want to show you what I did, because I always feel that if you are in a situation where you've stumbled upon a problem and you figured out the solution to the problem, it's not enough to just tell people how to solve the problem. It is also necessary to walk the walk and show people how to solve the problem. I also I generally think if you're living in a situation where you have resources around you and a problem crops up, the most important thing is to pause, think, look around at the resources that you have and start to see how can I, me, the individual, deploy the resources that I've got to help solve this problem. Sometimes it's not you alone could solve the problem, but invariably you will be able to play some sort of role in solving the problem that you're dealing up with. And if the problem right now is food and food sustainability and thinking about how to ensure that you've got food, adequate food and good food, not just fast food and processed food, but good, healthy, nutritious food, then that's a problem that we can begin discussing solutions for this evening. Now, when the pandemic hit, one of the things that occurred to me almost immediately was that the pandemic in and of itself was going to have an impact on food supplies from other parts of the world. And we here had to become more aware of what we're producing here and what we can eat from here so that we don't have to be reliant on what is being imported. I don't know if you all have been looking at the prices in the groceries the way I have been looking at the prices in the groceries. I went in the grocery the other day. I don't really buy corned beef and peanut butter and them kind of thing too much no more, right? But I go on in the grocery and I say to myself, let me check out, let me start to check out prices. When I saw the price of things like peanut butter and corned beef and even sardines and stuff, basic food items, basic, this is nothing fancy. I don't go to big set of fancy grocery, right? When I saw the price of those basic things that people need to use on a regular basis, I, shock. I call a partner and tell him, hey, I put in this call on a video call. I need you to see this. And we put it on a video call and I there zooming in on prices and I'm like, what people eat, how people managing to eat. How people managing to eat. And I there thinking to myself, I buying food for one person. I working fairly. Yes, Debbie, $25 for a tin of corned beef. When I see $25, I saw corned beef ranging from $21 to $25. I saw peanut butter ranging from, depending on the brand that you're buying, you could get a particular size, like maybe about this size, for 20 something dollars. And then a normal size but different brand, $40 something. $40 something for a bottle of peanut butter. Listen. So I looked at that and I saying to myself, so by the time people pass through a grocery to make grocery, I don't even think people can make grocery for a full month anymore. Because with them prices, people eating every fortnight? And exactly, Alana, imagine that the government has removed VAT on so many food items and food continues to be so ridiculously expensive. So, I have sat here in talking about NAMDEFCO and told people I spend about $1,000 to $1,200 a month, give or take. It might, sometimes it's less than that because it will be like $200 to $300 a week I will spend at NAMDEFCO if I am doing market at NAMDEFCO. And that is starches, vegetables, and fish, which is, for me, all that I really need on a weekly basis to be able to eat. So I make sure I have my starches, I make sure I have my vegetables, my seasoning, things to make salads and stuff, and fish. And based on that, $200 to $300 on a weekly basis, and I have covered all of my meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the week, because I'll get eggs and plantain for breakfast, because as a woman like my fried plantain. I will have fish and a salad for lunch, and then I will have mashed provision, mashed sweet potatoes or mashed dasheen or something like that, so along with fish for lunch, and then I might have the same thing again for dinner. So when I started to see the foolishness that was taking place with food prices, processed food in the groceries, I would have shifted to market goods. Then I had this conversation with my friend, and this is what all you're here for. So let's get into it. Whoops. Just now. What am I? Right. So this Y'all would have seen the yard before. Let me go back to the yard before. This is the yard before. And when I measured it, I realized I had the length of a 20-foot container width and some more space, right? So it's more than 20 feet in length. But you need a little bit more than, I needed a little bit more than 20 feet in length because I wanted to be able to walk around the system. So I would have spoken to this friend. And he had a home system and a commercial system. The commercial system was massive, and we're going to look at the commercial system, and we're also going to look at some aspects of his home system. And so in talking about his system and explaining things to me, I said, okay, all right, so this is something that can be done. Yes. Then I started, for want of a better term, apprenticing with his system. So I would go and I would check things out. I would ask questions. I would assist with repairs. I would assist with maintenance, feeding the fish, harvesting, those kinds of things to get an understanding of precisely how this thing works. And the thing that got me interested in aquaponics is the fact that it's holistic. You are basically using every aspect of the system. You have fish in a tank. The fish are giving off excrement, ammonia, urea, all of those things. The bacteria in the system helps to break the excrement down. Then it passes through the troughs where the plants are. The roots of the plant soak up the nutrients, and they also change the nitrates and nitrites back into nutrients that can go back to the fish. So the fish poop in the water passes through the plant troughs, and the plant troughs, the roots in the plant, they suck up the nutrients, and they also help to purify the water. Well, there's also bacteria in there that helps to purify the water, and then that recycled water goes back into the fish tank. So the same water that would have gone into the system at the start is the same water that is there, cycling over and over and keeping things nice and rich. So that's the yard before, and this is the yard after. So you can see I clean up everything in the corner, got rid of some things. The shelf is still around in another space, and the other plants are moved into other spaces, and the plants that just wasn't making sense I would have gotten rid of, and that space was cleared up. So I have this tank, this IBC tank, and this IBC tank is about 158 gallons. Yeah, about 150. So 600 liters, right? 600 liters. This IBC is 600 liters. And then there are two other IBCs here that would have been cut in half. So it's 1, 2, 3 IBCs. Each IBC, at the point in time it was purchased, cost about $250 each, right? I went on Facebook Marketplace this week, not too long after I had put up things about my system, and all the IBCs I was seeing was costing from $350 to $500. So I don't know if IBC is going to start to cost more than that now. But this is what eventually ended up in this space after I removed all of the tanks. So we went from this, which is when it's set up with the water in it, to this. And you will see the main tank I painted, and I had to paint the main tank because when it's clear the way it was in the previous picture, sunlight goes in and it can turn the water green, so it will cause a lot of algae to grow. So I had to paint the tank itself to dampen down how much sunlight ends up inside the tank, so that way it wouldn't be like a big soupy mess of algae. So let me give you a sense of what a commercial farm looks like. So this is, just now let me small this up a little bit. This is what my friend's commercial farm looked like. So you can see the range that can happen, right? This is a small commercial farm. It's not a massive commercial farm. And so lots of different troughs, and all of the various troughs would be growing different things, and of course the items would be sold in markets. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about aquaponics. It is one of the most sustainable ways to be growing food. And it's based on the nitrogen cycle. So you have, as I said before, the fish in the tanks giving off poop, and thereafter the poop passes through the water, passes through the troughs with the food, and then that water is purified and goes back in with nutrients for the fish. You of course have to feed the fish, right? So one of the things that I have to spend money on is fish food, but fish food is not that expensive right now. Shannon, don't just say it's going to be a goal. Do it. It's very doable. Very, 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 very possible. So this is another example of a home system. So you would have seen my system, which is made from IBC, right? But you can also use wooden frames and liner. And this is one of the things that the people at Green Acres Farms would have shown me. So they have liner, and it's an organic liner, and they build frames. So if you want to do a system, it doesn't have to just be from the IBCs, because different people have different shapes of yard, different spaces. So there are lots of different things that you can do. What you have available, once you talk to the person who's doing the system for you, they can walk you through what is possible. But I just want to say, regardless of space, there is a lot that's possible, because I had persons this week telling me on threads that they're living in apartments. There is tabletop aquaponics, where you have a smaller tank for fish, right? So like basically like a fish aquarium. So you have a fish aquarium, and you would have smaller troughs, like plastic containers really, and the rafts in the plastic containers, and the plants are there. So you'd be moving the water from the fish tank into the plastic containers, and the plants are there on rafts in the plastic containers. Barbara, I see you asking what are IBCs. These are IBCs. Let me go back to the system. The big plastic containers. They tend to come with industrial things in them. Sometimes it's farming stuff. Other times it's chemicals. So when you get the IBCs, whoever's building the system for you, they will clean it out. You have to wash it out. You have to soak it for a while, and you have to ensure that it's rinsed out properly and it's clean, because you can't just put animals inside there, right? So let's see. So from the IBCs, where was I before? Right. So I'm showing you this home system. Oh, thank you very much, Senor Clement. Intermediate bulk container. Thank you, Kevon. Intermediate bulk container. So you can also have, as I was saying before, you can have somebody build the system. People who are building systems, they can also use wooden frames and lining material, and the lining material is waterproof. And what they do is they will staple or nail the lining material onto the wooden frames, and they set the troughs up, of course PVC pipes to allow the water to run from trough to trough to trough. So these are the IBC containers, the intermediate bulk containers that would have been used to build my system. So this is one of them, and then this is when they were cut. So that's the main fish tank. That would be the main fish tank in the background, and the troughs that would have been cut. And what my builder opted to do was keep the metal frames that the IBCs, the intermediate, oh my goodness, what is it? Intermediate bulk containers, right? That the intermediate bulk containers came in. So everything remained in the metal frames. He would have cut up the metal frames and left the plastic troughs in the metal frames, so that way everything remains supported, because it was going to be sitting on the ground in my yard. So it's basically in the frame sitting on the ground, as opposed to me building a platform to put it on a platform. Somebody's asking, can I use blue plastic drums? Because I'm not a builder, I don't want to say yes you can. I would suggest that you reach out to like the people at Greenwater Farms or any other person who's building aquaponic systems to ask them. So I can't say. I don't want to jump in and say. I could talk about what happened with my system, and I could talk a little bit about the liners and wooden frame systems because I've worked around systems like that. So those are the IBCs. Now the key thing, once you've set up your system and you have water in your system, and invariably once you've set up the system and you've filled it with water and you've left the water to get stale, because you can't put fish in highly chlorinated water, so you have to leave the water to get stale. And you also have to try and get system water from somebody else. Why? Because the system water from another aquaponics, an active aquaponics system, will have the bacteria in it that you need to grow and, you know, multiply to be able to help the fish excrement break down. Yes, Marcelin, you can also use water tanks, because I've seen people using the rotoplastic tanks, and they tend to have the rotoplastic tanks functioning as fish tanks as well as the tanks for the plants to grow in. I would imagine, and I mean, like I said, I'm not an expert, but I would imagine that once the tank is waterproof, because there's a lot of water you're dealing up with here, once the tank is waterproof, then yes, you will be able to use it. How do your fishes survive during the blackout? With prayers, Akil, with prayers. The thing is, there are water stones in, but let me not jump the gun. So you have the IBCs. You fill the IBCs with water. Once you fill the IBCs with water, you have to leave the water, let it get stale over a couple of days. And you should also get water from another person who has an active system, so that way you get the bacteria. You put the water into your system, and so that way the bacteria begins to cultivate. Then you get fish. And the fish that I'm using is tilapia. I'm using tilapia because tilapia real hardy. They're real tough. Right? That's what I'm told. But there's a range of fish that you could be using. Because I was looking at a number of videos on YouTube. I am currently a student in the University of YouTube. And in looking at those videos, depending on the climate that you're from, if you're from a temperate climate, come all the way down to a tropical climate like us, there are a range of fish that you can use. And you can decide what kind of fish you want to have in your system, because the fish is also food. So the fish that I have in my system, the tilapia that I have in my system, I am also going to be able to eat the tilapia. So research. I mean, more you can. There's at least one place that sells fish wholesale here, Chai's. But you can also use koi. Yes, Adrian Kirk. You can use koi. You could use shrimp. You could put cascadoo in the in your system. You could put trout. You could put perch. You could put carp. There are a range of freshwater fish that you can put into your system. Yes, Debbie, you can use koi. So there are lots of persons who have koi in their tank. Akil, crayfish, I've been told I can put crayfish in the troughs with the plants, not necessarily in the fish tank. But the reason I was told that is I think the fish might try to eat the crayfish or something like that. So, but definitely tilapia makes a lot of sense, and a range of freshwater fish, right? So all the freshwater fish that you are aware of that grows in Trinidad, that you know in our waters and thing, and could deal up with warm type water, which is tropical, you know, the tropical temperatures. You put that you put that into the tank. Shannon, I named one of my fish, only one, and then I decided to stop naming the fish, and I decided to not spend too much time talking to the fish, because yes, I talk to the fish and thing from time to time. So yes, you may want to, if you know you're going to become emotionally connected to your fish, you may want to stop naming your fish. So this, I mean, you could get tilapia even bigger than that, right? But this is like some fairly full-grown tilapia here that would have come out of a system to be used for food. But the point is, the fish that you have in the system that's feeding your plants, you can actually eat the fish. I'm seeing Nigel Clement saying here that the problem with shrimp is that they eat each other because they're territorial. That's what I heard. I heard if you have too many shrimp in a system, and if you have too many crayfish in a system together, they will eventually eat each other, and so that's where it becomes problematic. But again, I'm not an expert on this, and there are loads of other persons who could give you even better information than I can give you. I am merely talking through my experience. So I chose tilapia for a number of reasons. One, they're tough. They could take all kind of jamming. Two, they're good to eat, and I plan to be able to eat fish along with the vegetables that are growing. So this was the, that was part of what prompted me. So this is a commercial fish on the commercial farm, the fish tank. So you could see how many fish, how massive the tank is, and that you need that many fish if you're going to be feeding a system that was as large as this commercial system. And like I said, I was told that this is a small commercial system, so you could imagine for a large commercial system. Sounds like I'm naming the fallen dust. I don't have a problem necessarily with naming the animals, but I feel if I'm going to get to the point of eating them, I don't really want to know which animal, which one of them I'm planning to eat. So, fish in system and fish eating, fish pooping in system. You have a number of options thereafter with respect to plants. You can go to agri shops and buy seedlings. Seedlings don't cost a lot of money. Seedlings are like $1, $2. I think the most expensive I've seen seedlings, or the most expensive I've bought seedlings at, is $5. So I bought things that are $1, some things that are $2, and some things that are $5. So you get your seedlings from a plant shop, or you could decide to buy seeds and set your own seedlings. I'm seeing that Nigel is saying pre-harvesting is important. Yes, correct. I've heard the same thing. I've heard people say that the fish can taste earthy. The flesh can have an earthy taste. So what you do is you don't feed the fish for a couple days, so that their system gets flushed, and then you harvest the fish. You take the fish out and kill and pluck and guts and season. Well, you're not a pluck, you know what I mean? Scale and guts and season. So, right, back to seedlings. So you can buy seedlings from an agri shop. And your agri shop, your neighborhood agri shop, is going to eventually become your best friend, because that's where you're going to have to go when you need to get chelated iron. We're going to talk about chelated iron just now. That's where you're going to have to go when you have to buy your organic repellent. And you can also make your own repellent. And that's one of the reasons I needed to talk to Michelle Romeo, because she's making her own organic repellent, I think with garlic and hot peppers and onions. And so Michelle, if you're still on the live, just comment on the on the feed, please, so that I could pull you in, so people can see your name and they could run you down and find you to find out exactly how they do their own organic repellents. But your local agri shop is going to become one of the best places for you to know and to become familiar with. Hi, so there she is. Let me add her to the broadcast. So you've seen her name, Michelle Paula Barton Romeo. Michelle is a farmer herself. She does a lot of her own things. She's doing agro processing, so she's not just growing food, she's also processing food as well, and she makes her own repellent. So Michelle is somebody for you all to go and check out her Facebook profile and chat with Michelle. So Michelle, thank you so much for being on the live this evening, because I've been learning a lot from following your page and listening to things that you have been saying on social media for quite some time now. So right, so you get your seeds or you get your seedlings. In my case, I at the start opted for a combination of two. So I did seedlings. I did lettuce, I did arugula, I did mustard, And the important thing, once you set your seedlings and you're looking after them, wetting them, and whatever it is, you have to make sure that there's enough root growth. So I was hoping I can see it in this picture, but you may not be able to see it. But the key thing is you get up to like about 2-3 inches of growth. And once you have gotten about 2 to 3 inches of growth, then you put the plants into the system. You put them on the rafts. So the rafts are done with styrofoam, and you cut holes in them, holes wide enough for the net pots that you're seeing there to sit in. And so what happens is the plants are actually kind of floating on the water. So the nutrients is just swirling around underneath them in the trough, and they are pulling the nutrients up through their roots. And that's why it's important for the roots to get to about 3 inches in length. So you know once you've put them down into your system, there's enough root growth for them to be able to pull up the nutrients, suck up the nutrients, right? So there's some more seedlings. These are some cucumber seedlings that I would have set. And I mean, I'm seeing it. I don't know how well you are seeing it. There was a significant amount of root growth, and I was very pleased about it. Now, once you have plants in your system and your system kicking, going, and you know there's the right kind of bacteria and it's processing all of the nitrogen and nitrates and nitrites properly, the next thing you're going to find is pests. So this is at the top of the batimamsel is a moth, and this is one of those moths that is be laying caterpillars that is be massacring pak choy. I'm seeing Alana has asked, have I tried fine thyme? Yes, I have tried fine thyme in the system. What was critical was making sure that the fine thyme developed roots. So I tried 2 pieces. One piece didn't do so well, it didn't catch itself at all, and the other piece eventually caught itself. So the fine thyme has been growing in the system. It is not impossible for it to grow in the system, and I have been doing a lot of experimenting, plenty experimenting. So I will just find, see something and be like, I wonder if that will grow, and I'll just stick it into the system, and I've really been enjoying that. So here we go with moths, these brown moths with their larvae, and batimamsels. You're always happy to see batimamsels. Batimamsels are a good sign. When you start seeing batimamsels flitting around your system, good things. When you start seeing moths flitting around your system, it also means good things. But good things in that your system fine, you're producing nice lovely veggies, but you had to do something about the moths and them. And this is where organic repellents come around, which is why I wanted you all to see Michelle's name, so that you could go and talk to her about doing organic repellents if you don't want to go and buy pesticides. And it has to be organic pesticides. And let me explain why it has to be organic pesticides. Everything hinges on the caliber of water you have in your system. Everything. Keeping your fish alive is dependent on how healthy the water is. Keeping your plants alive is dependent on how healthy the water is. So you can't put any and everything in that water. You cannot decide that you're just going to put any kind of fertilizer, for instance, in the water. You cannot decide that you're going to put any kind of pesticide in the water, because you could very well end up killing your fish and damaging the entire system. So you have to be very aware of what you are putting into the system. And it's one of the things that makes it such a healthy way to be growing your own food, because you are always aware of what is going into your system. So that means you can also control what is going into your body. It's not the same as farming in soil, where all kinds of things go down into the soil and all kinds of things are sprayed onto plants to get rid of pests and to get rid of microbes and stuff. So you are not impacting, you certainly should not be impacting on the water in the system in that way. And yes, Nigel, correct, the maintenance of the pH is very important. You have to maintain the pH of the water. Yes, money fee, what goes in is what comes out. So go in, go out is very, very important. One of the signs that your system is working properly, and I should have taken a picture of that today. Like I should have taken a picture of the water in a clear glass so that you could see. The water looks like a very light, mild tea. So it gets this light brown complexion, a kind of not green, but like a a kind of pale brown complexion the water gets, and that is a sign that you have the right kind and the right amount of bacteria in your system. So the water isn't supposed to get green, it's not supposed to get dark brown. It is supposed to be like a light, like tea. Like if you put a tea bag in water and it starts to, infuse the water, that's how your system water is supposed to look. So you have to be very careful about what you're putting into your system. You're not wildly applying all kinds of pesticides and all kind of fertilizers. Don't let people tell you to put those things into your system. Once the fish are being fed properly, that they're supposed to provide almost all the nutrients that your plants need. The only other thing that I add to the system right now is chelated iron, and that's because pak choy and spinach and lettuce, they consume a lot of iron. They need iron for their leaves to be nice and green and lush. So I put chelated iron in the system. Right, so pests, right? You will have the caterpillars from the moths, and they will come to mash up your pak choy and your bhaji and your lettuce. Me ain't lying to tell you. Right? They will come to mash up things. You will come out in your yard a morning. You don't ever see the caterpillars on them. I managed to see them because I like a zombie. When I realize my leaves getting eaten, I up all hour the night, getting up, going outside, checking on the leaf, all kind of nonsense, until I started to see the caterpillars. And thereafter, dipel. So dipel comes in powder form, and you mix it in water and you spray. Right? And you, as I was saying, you can also do something organic like garlic water, or peppers, a kind of pepper spray thing, and spray it on the leaves, and that's supposed to keep off the moths, and it should also keep off the lizards, because that is the next thing. Listen to me. I live by lizards. I cannot say that lizards does live by me, because the way these lizards just sit down and watch me like I disturbing them, I mean, they are all over. Now, I don't hate lizards. I don't have an issue with lizards, because lizards will be catching mosquitoes and other insects and stuff. But you see, when they decided that my trough was their buffet, we was having a problem. So I would see them going and nipping the leaves, nipping my pak choy leaves, nipping my spinach leaves, nipping my lettuce leaves. I don't know what to do again. I mean, I've sprayed dipel and that has kind of kept them off, but they'll still be darting around from time to time, right? Kill them dead. So you've heard me talk about dipel. This is dipel. I have a little spray bottle because it's a small system. I don't need a massive spray bottle. So dipel, you mix it in some water in a bucket, you pour it into your spray bottle, and then you walk around and you spray your plants. And as I've said to you all in posts that I would have put up during the week, this is not a labor intensive thing at all. On a weekly basis, no, actually no, let me talk about on a daily basis. On a daily basis, I get up, and the biggest chore that I have to do is to feed the fish. That's the biggest chore. So I get up, I go and I throw some feed for the fish, let them eat the fish, but I spend a lot of time looking at the system, observing growth on the plants, seeing what's taking place, taking a lot of mental notes, where I'm seeing growth, where there is not enough growth, that sort of thing. On weekends, so like either on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning, that's when I will get up, mix some dipel, spray down the leaves and thing, and then like every 2 weeks I will mix chelated iron. It comes in powder form, and I mix it in a bucket with water, with system water, and I pour the liquid iron mix into the various troughs. So that way, the plants that need it the most, the pak choi, the lettuce, the spinach, they will get liquid iron in their system. Yes, Monifi, I'm not going to lie, as we're talking to the fish. I talk to the fish. As a matter of fact, there's a video I'm going to be playing for you all at some point in time in this live, and you will realize that I talk to the fish. It's very relaxing. And so that for me was one of the biggest sellers in doing this entire thing. I would spend a lot of time just listening to the water flowing, and then watching the plants grow. That is also very rewarding. And I have a range of herbs in all of the troughs, and so there's a nice scent all the time, whether it's from the marigold or it's from the mint or it's from the rosemary or whatever. So there's just a lot of really nice sensual and sensory things to me where the system is concerned. This is liquid iron, but this is not what I buy. I don't know if this sells here, but you can get it like this. You can get it already in liquid form. But what I tend to get is it comes in a small pack, about 50 grams and 100 grams sometimes. It comes in a range of sizes, but it goes from 25 grams, 50 grams, 100 grams. And I take that, I mix it. They tell you how much to mix per however many gallons of water. So I mix that in a bucket, pour it into the various troughs. I see what grasshoppers, listen, is a range of things, a range of insects he's had to deal up with. What I will say is, for the most part, once I'm using dipel, I don't have too many insects or too many lizards feasting on my plants, so I have been able to eat more than they have been able to eat. And again, the other thing too is how therapeutic listening to the water flowing has been. Yes, Sandra, it is extremely therapeutic. If you have nothing growing in your system at all, just sitting down, listening to the water flow is amazing. Yes, correct, Nigel. What you do with something like that is create an ecosystem. And once you're creating an ecosystem, you have to be braced for everything. Things that are good for your ecosystem and things that are bad for your ecosystem. So, let me give all you a little story. I put my marigold in my system, right? Marigold. And I put marigold in the system because with this whole entire project, I've been reading a lot, right? So I'm looking at videos on YouTube, I'm reading a lot. And one of the things that I learned is when you plant a lot of herbs that have really strong scent and certain types of flowers, they're very good, they function as repellents. So I went and I got marigold and I put marigold in all of the troughs. And if you see my marigold in them, pop in, right? The flowers in them bright yellow, bright gold, right? And I enjoying sitting down, watching the system in the morning, watching the system in the evening, and looking at the marigold. And then one morning I get up and see Bachak toting my marigold flowers. Let me tell you something. I was ready to walk up to Four Rose Junction and buy gasoline and burn down my yard. I was that annoyed because the Bachak went off with the marigold flowers, it went off with the pak choi, it went off with the spinach. I cannot begin to tell you how angry I got about that Bachak. So I went to my neighborhood agri shop and asked the gentleman there, what you just do for Bachak? And he said it have this thing called Bachak bait, but it can't get wet. And of course, my system outside, and it will get wet. So then I talked to a friend. I don't always have very practical ideas. Like certain things don't occur to me naturally. So I'm talking to a friend, I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to put on this Bachak bait. And then he says, PVC pipes. And I was like, oh, okay. So I got some 3/4 inch PVC pipe and I cut them in 6-inch lengths, like about 6 inches, so about 4 pieces, 6 inches, and then put newspaper on one end and packed the pipe with batchak bait, and then used double-sided tape and taped the batchak bait onto each of the troughs. Took out the newspaper that was stuffing on the other end, because the only reason I put it there was to be able to not let the batchak bait fall out while I was taping it on. Taped the PVC onto each of the troughs, and that got rid of the batchaks. So the batchak invasion ended not before they get away with half my marigold. So they had started on trough 4, then they moved into trough 3. I had put up the bait, and so by the time they were in trough 3, so they didn't get to trough 2 and trough 1. But me in line to tell you, I was real fed up. If you see this long line of batchak just moving through my yard with marigold flowers. So the batchak bait worked, and it worked very well. I want to now show you a range of things that can grow in a system. And this isn't everything, but this is what I have seen grow in a system. And when I saw that all of these things could grow in a hydroponic system, I said to myself, this is for me. Because, as I said, it is not labor intensive. You are not out in hot sun all day long or for several hours a day. You are not wetting plants every day, because the plants wet themselves. The system wets itself. The most you have to do is feed the fish. If you are looking after your system properly, you wouldn't even have weeding, any sort of weeding and thing to do. Every once in a while, you might have to pull out some stray grass because seeds will drop from birds and stuff. But you don't really have a lot of weeding to do. You certainly have molding and thing to do. And in some instances, yes, you will prop up the plants, and that's where mesh or lattice comes in. So you have to plan how you are laying out plants in your trough, so that the plants can be close to where you are putting mesh and lattice, right? So let's now look at some of the things that you can grow in this system, so that you have a clear sense of what can be grown. And trust me, what I grow in my system is not as much as can be grown in the system. I'm trying a lot of different things, but let me show you. Corn. I was shocked to know that you could be growing corn in an aquaponic system, right? So you can grow corn in an aquaponic system. Well, you would all know you could grow lettuce. And I just want you to know, every single one of the pictures you see in here are pictures of food growing in actual aquaponic systems in Trinidad and Tobago. I did not go online and find pictures from any other part of the world. This is stuff that is growing here in aquaponic systems here, right? So there's lettuce and chive, watercress, right? And watercress in a range too. Lots of different kinds of watercress, cucumbers, and some big ass cucumbers too. There's a day I thought I was watching a cucumber grow before my very eye, because like in the morning it was this, then in the evening it was that, then in the night it was that. I swear to God. Dasheen. When I tell you, this shocked me. But then when I stopped and I thought about it, I'm like, of course, dasheen is growing water. When I was a child doing my working in my mother's kitchen garden, is dung in the ravine itself, you're planting dasheen. So dasheen, you just need bigger net pots, obviously, so that it could hold the dasheen. But yes, dasheen. Imagine being able to walk out into your yard and pick fresh dasheen leaves to make your callaloo when the week come, or when the day come. It might get to the point where you can make callaloo every day. So these are the the dasheen roots, obviously. So yes, the dasheen roots. So spinach, this is from my system. I was picking spinach leaves this morning. Red okras, green okras, okra, right? And lots of different kinds of okra you can grow in the system. This is another type of spinach along with pak choy. And I was not a lover of pak choy. As a matter of fact, didn't like pak choy. I could pass pak choy street. Having started to grow pak choy in a system that didn't have certain kinds of pesticides and stuff, I now enjoy pak choy so much more. So I've become a huge fan of pak choy. Beets, I've experimented with beets, and yes, beets grow in the system. Cabbage as well. And so your kitchen could be looking like this on a daily basis. Now, there are lots of other things, but the reason I didn't put up pictures for all of the other things is that I don't have actual pictures of those other things. But there are people who are growing ginger in systems. They're growing turmeric in systems. I see Michelle saying that you can actually do a range of root crops. I want to experiment with sweet potatoes in a system to see how it will grow, because I feel once you're at the point where you are growing your starches, you're growing a range of vegetables, and you are growing and you have your own fish, then you are eating very sustainably. I forget to put up a picture of bygone. I know I have bygone saved, but so there's bygone as well, right? And a range of bygone. Like there's a Chinese bygone, nice and round and, neat. And then there's the longer versions, but bygone. I just forgot to put the picture here, but yes, bygone. Right? So corn, cucumbers, tomatoes, lettuce, arugula, pak choy, spinach, broccoli, cauliflower, dasheen. Those are just some of the things. Imagine that, Gita, I forget to put a picture of bygone. And as a woman, like bygone, rare like bygone, all shape and size and form. People know this. And you can also be doing different types of fruit in your system. This was just to let you know that there is an option. The system that I had built for me cost me about $3,200 to build. And that would be the IBCs, the pumps, the PVC. What else would that cost? And of course, labor, right? So it would cover that. It would cover those range of things. I haven't included fish there because it depends on how many fish you decide you want to put into your system. And of course, I didn't include plants because it depends on whether you are buying plants, whether people giving you a piece of this, a piece of that for you to set or whatever it is. So it can range in terms of price. But the point is, something like this puts me in a position where even if all I'm doing is planting salad food in there, so lettuce, cucumbers, tomatoes, it's allowing me to eat better, improve my health, improve my diet, and also supplement my table. I am actually working towards getting to the point where I'm eating entirely from my system. So that's what I am expecting. Those are my expectations. So, yes, Justin, I'm going to show you that picture. So this is some of, this is just a sense of some of the stuff that I've made for myself. I love open face sandwiches, so there's bread underneath there somewhere. Lots of arugula because I love arugula. Arugula is one of my favorite things to eat. I can eat arugula just so. Tomatoes, not from my system, but from a friend's system, and then after that, I got bits of sausage and olives on it. But the arugula and the tomatoes from a friend's system. And well, the other things would have been from my fridge. And this bowl of salad, everything in this bowl of salad came from a system. Everything. The tomatoes, the arugula, the lettuce. Underneath there somewhere, there's some cucumbers, right? But everything came from a person's system. Everything. So imagine being in a position where you could be eating like that from your own yard. I'm looking for the video so that you all can see me talking to the fish, because I realize all you want to see me talking to the fish. Caterpillars ate your arugula. Oh my goodness, eat the caterpillars. Oh yeah. Because I'm growing body. I'm seeing, okay, so I can see why it is. So Michelle is saying that she can give me poi bhaji to grow on my trellis. Thank you very much, Michelle. We will have to talk, because I still have all of those jars for you. And that's one of the cool things. So before I show you the video, there are a couple things I think everybody should consider doing. All of you that are sitting here, the 300 or 400 of you that are sitting here listening to me. You can decide to grow your food as a cooperative. So I could be growing things in my yard, Alana could be growing things in her yard, Michelle could be growing things in her yard, and we're not all growing the same things, and we're supplementing each other's tables. Currently, I'm growing stuff. My brother grows, and I have a cousin who has chickens. So she's producing eggs. And so what we're doing is we're bartering. We're swapping food around. And because we're bartering and swapping food around, we're actually in a position where we are supplementing each other's table. And so when you start functioning in that way, and because all of you have your friends, all of you who have people who are in your circle, and so if you start to think about barter and trade in that way with respect to food, you are in a position to supplement your table and put some ease on your pocket. Yeah? And you'd be amazed at how well you can eat. And when I'm talking about well, I'm not just talking about the volume of food you'd be able to have to eat. I'm also talking about the caliber of dishes that you'd be able to create for yourself. Because I do eat like a peasant. I'm telling you, I don't. I save a lot of money on food and I eat well. I have really lovely salads. I have all kinds of interesting sandwiches. I eat very well. So this is my way of getting you to see that there's solutions that are available with respect to food sustainability. If you just pause and think about the resources that you have around you that are available. There is a lot that you can actually be doing. Hi Paulina, I'm sorry that you're late, but the live is there. And yes, Monifi, food quality equals nutrition. And if once you're eating better, you're going to start to feel differently and also look at your consumption patterns differently. And like I said, for the next couple of weeks, this current season of New Source, I want to talk about our consumption practices and our consumption habits. I'm not giving the farmers competition. The farmers and them doing their own thing, and we've always been in a position where we could grow our own food. I will say this, we've also been taught to think that growing food is hard. And what I wanted you to see is that growing food is not as hard as we think it is. It is really not as hard as we think it is. It is very possible to be growing your own food, to put your own food on your table, and it is not back-breaking work. And that is what I want people to grasp, that it is not back-breaking, arduous work where you're out in the hot sun all day long. This is the sort of thing that allows you to be able to get up, feed the fish, get ready, go to work, go and do your work, wherever it is you're doing your work, do your 9 to 5, do your 8 to 4, do your 7 to 3, and then come back home in the evening and harvest a couple things. That's all I'm trying to say to you, that it is very possible with the technology that we have now, and this is very basic technology here, this is just water flow, right, and the nitrogen cycle. It is very possible to be growing your own food and you're not spending long hours doing it at all, and it doesn't have to interfere with the rest of your life. You could continue to have much the same life that you currently have in terms of responsibilities and duties. And this system is there looking after itself and looking after you. Yeah. So I want to show you all this video. So this is my system. This is my system from a couple weeks ago, right? I'm gonna turn on the audio so they could hear me talking to the fish and thing. Feel like a video showing the troughs when it's raining. This is what it's like when it's raining, right? Well, let me catch the fish. When last I showed you the fish? Look at my wild fish! Yay! Right. Well, they're not really wild, but you know what I mean now. Right. So it is midday. Normally at midday, things get kind of limp because atmospheric temperature, right? It will be hot, direct sunlight. Yes, they're getting water and they're getting a lot of nutrients in the water, but it's hot outside, so the leaves will be kind of limp. But when it's raining like this, look at everything, nice and fluffy. Well, listen, the mint never not fluffy. The mint always fluffy. But things like the pak choy and the tomatoes tend to get very limp, but they're nice and lush right now. So it's really, really gorgeous to see them when it's weather like this. So I can understand now why farmers just get excited about rain. So you see this yellow in here, that's because there isn't enough iron in the plants right now. So I added chelated iron to the system yesterday. One of these days I should do a video just showing you, me mixing the chelated iron and adding it to the system. So you're gonna see this plant was ravaged by batchak, and I set up the batchak bait in those PVC pipes there. And since the batchaks have gone, the plant has started to catch itself. So it went from, real chop up looking leaves and thing, and now a lot of new leaves are sprouting. So I'm very pleased about that. And then of course, there are all the little things in between that I have started to set new lettuce and thing, so that when the fuller lettuce, the more mature lettuce get eaten, I'll have more lettuce coming up. This is my white sage. I move it into the shade because I feel like the hot sun a little bit too much for it. And are you seeing? I've allowed this lettuce to bolt because I want to harvest seeds. So I want to see what it would be like to harvest seeds from my lettuce and then plant those seeds back. And that there, folks, is me and my little experiment. I was in, where was I? Pyramid, December 2020, thinking to myself, I need something new and interesting to do. Stand up chatting to a friend, and he said, why don't you consider agriculture? And I said, who had time to be out in the hot sun whole day? So as a woman, I had to go to work. And he's like, you have all kind of new scientific ways and all kinds of different techniques that you could use. And then, like I said, I talked to another partner who have a system, and that's where the seed got planted. And by August of last year, I said to myself, it's time to do the thing. It's time to walk the walk, not just think you want to do this, not just think you want to be in a position where you could be eating your own food that you're growing. And so I started from August last year, and then December of last year was when I put down my own system, and now, well, you all are able to see how it's going. So I will from time to time do updates so that you know what's going on, so that you see what is possible. And I am hoping that this has influenced some of you, that it has inspired some of you, that it has allowed you to see that it is very possible. You don't need a lot of yard space. You don't need to have a lot of time in your day. You don't need to have a lot of land or anything like that. You don't need to have massive amounts of time. You just need to have the will to do it, and then make the decision, do the thing. All right, so it was nice. I will see you all on Sunday evening. You'll take care. Thank you so much for joining me.
Time to eat a food. What's on the menu? It's Jenga